What's up, guys and girls? Welcome back to my channel. This video we will be looking at FL Studio 20 and more importantly how to set up a template for a bit of acid techno. This can be applied to any kind of EDM or dance style of music, and this is what we're going to be achieving in this video. Okay, so first thing we want to do is start a new project in FL Studio 20 and go to our mixer. I've got the mixer set here as extra large because we will be predominantly working with the mixer. So also what you want to do is bring up your channel rack and put it somewhere where you can see it. And I'm just going to get my browser opened like this. And what I'll do is all these samples that I'm going to use throughout this video, I will link them in the description. All I'm doing now is basically just deleting the generic channels. And I'll tell you what, before we delete the last one, let's just get a kick, a good 909 kick. Let's just extend that a little bit. Just going to go for that one I'll do. Obviously, with the project linked in the description, you can just download the project if you want the exact sounds that I've used. This is now the example one, so let's just delete that channel. So I've got my kick, and what I'm going to do on my mixer is start on channel 3. I'm going to have my kick on channel 3, and then I'm going to right click and rename this to kick. Call it kick low for now, and then I'm going to make it red. Click the little plus button, add a custom color as red, enter that, and then I'm going to change the icon to, yep, you've guessed it, a kick drum. So what we're going to do is, instead of all the channels currently on the mixer going to the master, we want to have a group go into a buzz channel, which is just basically another channel with all these streams, once I've built them up, go into the buzz channel. So this will be a buzz channel for, you've guessed it, drums. So just call it drum buzz. And we're going to be using standard 909 kind of classic sounds because that will give us that like techno feel. So again, I am going to color this in red. What we want to do now for the kick is to buzz the kick to this channel. So with the kick channel selected, if I right hand click on this arrow, we're going to route to this track. And what we're going to also do is take it off the master. What we also could have done was, if we just take it off that channel, route to this track only. Okay, so as long as you've just got your audio lead or the representation of an audio lead going to your drum buzz, we should be there. I'm going to quickly add in a clap. So let's go just for a standard clap. Drag and drop it onto the channel rack, and this is going to go on channel 4. Again, just call this clap. And right click and route this track only, and just check that the kick is still on the drum buzz. Again, just change the color of this and the icon. It's almost like a snare, isn't it? A clap. So let's start putting this track together a little bit. So I'm just going to keep this in pattern mode because for the demonstration purposes, we're just going to have one repeating pattern. And when we use the mixer and the effects, we can sort of add a bit of variance to the project. So it's almost like we've got a deck in front of us and we're doing a bit of DJing. Just going to set up that now. So let's have a 4 to the floor kick. What we'll also do, whoops, right click and rename. So just going to call this kick 909. Let's give it a color. Is that one red as well? So all my drums are going to be red. Yep, that makes sense. So on the kick, we're going to add a little fruity compression. So if we go to our fruity compressor in our slots for our effects, only on the kick, remember. And then if we bring this up, whoops, it's there somewhere, isn't it? Let's have a look. It's probably hiding behind my mixer now. Okay, cut that bit out. So for the kick, we're going to add just default drum compression. Obviously, we're going to turn the volume down so we just see in our kick channel. We're just going to get it to hit minus 6 dB, and it's not clipping in the individual channel or in the channel on the mixer. Let's just stop that because it can get quite annoying. So that's our kick drum sorted. Because we're going for the techno kind of vibe, we want to get that low frequency rumble in between the kick. We are going to go for, and we'll put it on insert number 9, some delay. Whoops. So if we go to slot 1, select that and add delay 3. So we are now going to side chain or add a send effect from the kick. So if we select our kick channel and then on channel 9, which has got our delay, right click and side chain to this track. So if we go back to track 9, let's just, because this is an effect, I'm just going to call it delay. And I usually tend to have my delays blue. Okay to that. So now if we kick on the low kick, click on the low kick, that send and return effect has basically got no effect. If we turn the dial up on the effect, you can see it affects the amount of delay. So with the delay, what we want to try and do is just get it so we have that low rumble, and we'll use a bit of EQ just to give it a bit of atmosphere on the low end. So I'm going to put the time down to about 2. I'm going to put the level all the way down, and I'm going to put the cutoff, because we just want that low rumble, that low techno kind of rumble on the delay. And we want to go to our delay, not the actual kick, and EQ out most of the high end. Okay, what we'll do, we'll reset this and we'll actually add some parametric EQ onto the effects channel. So I usually use parametric EQ number 2, and we're going to grab the high frequencies and cut them off all the way down. Let's have a little listen. Let me just turn the kick drum down a little bit. And on the dry, on the effect, let's just get rid of the EQ. Let's get the cut. Just get it so we've got that rumble. And then you can tweak this till you get it sounding right. Personally, I'd like to have it so it's probably the kick I've used in this example is not quite hitting the low frequencies enough to have that rumble, but you get the idea. And obviously on your mixer, let's just get rid of that and that. On your mixer, you can adjust, go to your low kick, adjust how that is affected, how much that appears in your actual mix. Okay, so that's the kick drum done. So we've added a compressor, and then we've send effect to a delay just to give it that atmosphere. Now with the clap, let's actually listen to the clap. So the clap sample has got a bit of reverb on it. We want to control the reverb through an actual effect. So let me just color this 909, clap 909, so it's more organized, and we are going to keep it on effect 4, but we're now going to add an insert effect for reverb. So on channel 2 on the mixer, let's just go for the fruity reverb standard reverb. And obviously I'm going to call this reverb, make it blue. And I am going to, from the clap, which goes to the buzz, I'm going to select the clap channel, right click on this arrow, and side chain to this track. So you can see we've got this audio stream going to our drum buzz first, and you'll see why we've got all the drums going through the drum buzz. And then the drum buzz goes to the master, but we've also got the clap side chain to a reverb effect, and the kick side chain to the delay to give us that rumble effect. So the kick, the clap needs a little bit of reverb, but let's get rid of the reverb on the sample. And I found the quickest way to do this is if you let's keep that there. We don't need the compressor anymore. So on the clap, if you click on the channel, minimize that down. If we put the out all the way down, you can see it's more of a dry sound now. So it's the quickest way. You just go to your channel rack, go to your sample, and just fade down the fade out of the actual sample. So the next thing we want to do is put actual reverb that we've got control over onto the clap. So let's add a bit of clap going here. I like to have the clap sort of offset in this acid techno kind of genre. So you can see it doesn't quite sound right in the mix. So let's add a bit of reverb. So if we click on our clap, and then for the reverb, we've got that reverb going. Let's just quite loud, isn't it? Let's undo that. So for the clap, again on its own channel, let's just add a compressor. And again, we're going to go for drums just to lift it out in the mix, and we might end up just fading that clap down. Now the reason I've got all my drums going for a drum buzz is so I can control all the drums all at once. So if we do this, what's happening is we're getting the reverb come through. So the reverb isn't side chained to the drum buzz. The reverb's going straight to the master. So if we click on the reverb and side chain to this route to this track, and then unroute from the master, we've got control of the drums. You'll also notice that the delay is coming through because, lo and behold, the delay is routed through to the master as well. So we take it off the master, make sure the delay is highlighted, which it is, right and click on the arrow, and then route to this track. So when we bring this up, we've got the rumble. We can control the rumble separately as well. Let's just reset that back to normal and stop that. So what I'm going to do now is just add some hi-hats, some open hi-hats and closed hi-hats. So again, what I'm going to do is closed hi-hat, drop it on the channel rack. Whoops. I'm trying to drag a folder. So let's put that in there. Let's just rename reverb. Let's just hide that for now. And then let's call this closed 909. Let's give it color, red. And let's give it effect channel number 5. So on your mixer, we want to rename this to closed 909, make it red. Okay, and then we want to have that selected and route it to, so route it, which is routing the audio only to the buzz, the drum buzz, but we also want to side chain the effects to the reverb, so side chain to this track, so you can, and we also want to take it off the master. So we just click on the tiny arrow above the knobs to take it off. So you can see it's the audio is routed to the buzz, and the effects is send and return to channel 2, which is the reverb. So if we play, let's add some closed hi-hats. We might just... And obviously we've got no reverb because we haven't adjusted the amount of send and return to the reverb. So if we... And the reverb just helps it to give that atmosphere, how, you know, it sounds like it's being played in a room rather than played clean, cold and clinical through a computer's processor. So we're going to do the same again with the open hats. Again, this is very generic, cheesy old Roland 909 pattern, but you can adjust this to your heart's content. So let's give it a color. Let's rename it to Open 909, and let's give it effect track number 6. Then we go down to our mixer, rename it to Open 909. Set the color. Again, it's a drum, so we're going to make it red. We'll take it off the master and we will route it, make sure it's selected, route to this track, and make sure your hi-hat is selected and side chain to this track, which is the reverb. So let's add in an open hat. Again, you guessed it, on the upbeats or the downbeats. Somebody will have to comment. I can't remember if the downbeats was the kick and the upbeats was the open hat in between the beats. Again, let's just mute these channels. So you can see we've got natural reverb on the sample, a little bit. So let's go onto our channel. Yeah, we have a little bit, and fade that out. Maybe a bit short on the tail. A bit better. And again, obviously, if we just make sure we're on our send effect and add the reverb. So you can see we can have individual reverb on each channel. We haven't got reverb on the kick because that would sort of defeat the object of having that delay kind of rumble. We can route it to the reverb if we feel that the reverb on the kick makes it sound a bit better. I usually tend to prefer to use the delay. So this is more or less our drum channel done. The only thing I want to do is add a filter onto all the drums. So if we're DJing, we can take our drum track or drum sounds and filter them out of the mix, which you'll see if I just crack on and do this. So on the drum buzz, which we know every single drum goes through, we want the effect of filter. So I prefer to use the Fruity Love filter. And what we want to do is initially set up the filter so it sounds completely dry and there's no effect. So the way I do this is have everything running. Bear with me. Hold on, there's a mistake. We don't want the kick drum to end up being... Yes, we do want the kick drum to end up being filtered out. Sorry, bear with me. So if we do this, we can see we've got the filter in operation. What we want to do is have it sound the same. So usually it is the resonance and the envelope is all the way down and the cut is all the way up. So with the effect on and the effect off, it sounds the same. Whereas if I had resonance and envelope all the way up, it doesn't sound the same. It sounds too tinny. It just sounds unnatural. So with the love filter fruity effect, it's just the cut off frequency that we're going to be dealing with. So again, what we get is, hold on, bear with me. It would help if I activate the effect. There we go. So that gives us that like cutting off and making it sound like it's disappearing off into another room in the nightclub. That's how I always explain the cut off, especially if you're using it on the drums. So that is basically how I want the drum track to be controlled. One more thing that we can do is, it's a bit fiddly to navigate to this cut off here. So we'll add a control surface. So we'll add that to our master. Because we want all our controls, whether you're controlling it with an external MIDI controller or whether you're going to use the knobs on your touchscreen laptop or touchscreen computer if you're lucky enough to have one. So on a slot, all we're going to do is add the effect of control surface. So let's just minimize the mixer. Let's keep the filter where it is. Let's close that, so we've got a bit more space. So if you put it into the spanner icon, or what I like to call the edit mode or maintenance mode, if you right hand click on the control surface, we're going to add a knob. Let's make the size of the knob 2. Just move it where we can see it. You don't have to, but I'm going to change the look of the knob. And I'm going to rename it to drum filter. Now, what you've got to remember is you want to link this controller to the cutoff. Take it out of edit mode. Right hand click on the cut on your filter effect. Link it to a controller. And the internal controller is the control surface and the drum filter. Accept that. And you can see when I turn the drum filter, it turns the cutoff. So we can now close the cutoff because we're happy with that. And if we play the pattern, let's just get this where we can see it. Okay, so we've got control over the drums on their own separate buzz with their own effects, and we can filter them in and out to give that nice kind of, you know, I'm a DJ on Fruity Loops kind of thing. The next thing we're going to do, and you might not have this, is add a 303. Give it an acid bass line. So if we go to add, and then it's transistor bass, you do have to pay for it, but it is worth getting, especially if you're into this genre of music. And then it will appear as a channel in your channel rack. I'm going to add it onto effect number 10. Just in case I want to add a 909 ride cymbal and a tom, which we probably will do later because that's what's in the example project. So this one, I'm just going to rename it to 303. And I'm going to make the 303 silver because what color is a 303? You've got it. And then on this effect, on this channel, I'm going to rename this 303 and give it the same color. That's that done. So I want this now to be routed to not the drum buzz, but to the master. And I also want to add the bass line in. So I'm just going to go to right click and get the piano roll up. And I'm going to go for a good sounding one. I can't remember the one I used. The repeater, that was it. So I'm just going to draw in on, what note's that? D. That's D. Well, it's basically 74 repeater. I'm going to drag that all the way across the single bar we've got in use. So if we look at our channel rack, you can see it's there. I don't need the piano roll anymore. And if I play that, we've got the 303 added, and you can see very quickly you're starting to build up a bit of a track. You take your laptop to a party, you can impress all the girls, or you can impress all the guys for hours by just twiddling a couple of knobs. So with this, we are going to get up our transistor bass, and we'll take off the reverb, and we'll use the reverb that we've got on our drums. General rule is if you've got one reverb applied, you use it on pretty much everything, else you'll start getting different kind of reverb reflections, and it will just sound a bit messy. But comment if you don't agree with that. I'd love to hear your feedback. The delay we're going to keep, and the distortion we're going to keep. But what I want to do is, with the 303, is widen it out across the stereo image. So again, we're going to add another effect. So on track 11, let's just rename this to stereo. Because it's an effect, let's make it blue. And then for our 303, we still want the audio to be routed to the master, but we want the effect to be side chained or send return effect to the stereo. Now the stereo on 11, the effect I like to use is the Fruity Stereo Shaper, and then it's a bit difficult to see. But if you look up here, you can see that it's on default. Go across to delay. I think delay, let's have a look, is the one I like to use. Obviously, don't forget you don't hear any change at the moment, because we now have to give it the amount of send and return effect that we want. And it all the way up, see what we get. Right, that's a bit too much pumping into the effect. Simplest way is to just turn it off. Yep, that's quite flat in the middle. That's widened it up now. So if we play that, we can see we get the 303, because it's separated over the stereo channel. It just helps to get it in the mix without clogging up that center channel too much, because we've got a lot of the drums on the center channel. So, excuse me. What we also don't want to do is have the 303 trying to compete with the low end bass drum and rumble. Quickest way I've found to do that is on your 303, on the quick EQ, on the 3-band EQ, just drop down the low end, and if we sorry, I'd muted the microphone there for a second. If we just get the low kick and the 303 with the stereo, what else have we got? We've got the rumble. Where's the rumble? It's the delay, isn't it? Yep. If we just compare. So with the low end left on here on the 303, it does compete a lot with the kick drum, but when we EQ it out, it fits better in the mix. Let's just see if we've EQ'd it low enough. Yeah, that sounds okay. You can tweak it, you can be hours and hours tweaking it to your heart's content. So that is our 303 bass line put into the mix. And what I'm going to do now is add a control for the cutoff, the resonance, and the envelope, exactly the same way as we did with the drum filter. So all we do is we go to our control surface, we add a knob, just right click, add knob, right click. Style is, I've created one myself. That will be another video on how to create your own unique knobs, styles, and we want that to be the same size. Plop it there, and we want to call this 303 cut. Just quickly add another one. Style is TB Roland 303, and we want the size 2 again. We're going to rename this 303 resonance. And the final one, right click, add a knob, make it the style you want, make it the size you want. You can drag the handle to make it whatever size you want, but I'm just going to have it at ×2 and rename that as 303 envelope, and plop that there. Take it out of edit mode. So now we want to link controllers to these knobs. So it makes sense that it would be the transistor base, or the 303 cutoff would be linking to the controller 303 cut. Accept that. Right and click on the resonance knob, link to controller. That would be 303 resonance, and the envelope would be linked to controller 303 envelope. And you can link pretty much all these knobs to your surface controller, but we're going to keep it simple for educational purposes. So now if we you can see we're starting to have control of our track now. The last thing I'm going to do is just add a control knob for the reverb. So we've got our individual sends from the drums on our reverb, but we want to control the reverb on its own. So if we mute the 303 and get in drums. Oh, sorry, let me just open the filter back up. Why is this not working? That side changed the reverb, that side changed the reverb, that side changed the reverb. Bear with me, let me just get rid of the kick drum. Oh, hold on, it would help if I unmute it. See, I make these mistakes so that you don't have to make them. Right, that's better. So now we're going to add a control for the reverb. So on the channel, we can adjust the amount of reverb that are affected by these. So we can basically turn the not the gain, but the amount of reverb up as if this was a reverb effects pedal or a reverb unit, hardware unit effect. So on our control surface, again, we're just going to add a knob. And then let me just minimize this down. We're going to make it 2. We're going to give it the style of the drums, because I want to keep these as the 303 knobs. You can see the difference, and rename that as reverb. So not only can we control the individual reverbs on the percussion or drum instruments via the send and return knob here, or the sidechain knob, we can also control it here. So you've guessed it, I'm going to get this slider, which controls the master, which controls that channel level, and link it to, let's just take this out of edit mode, and link to controller reverb. Accept that. So if we play, we can control the amount of reverb across our drums. So with everything brought back in, You can see we've got control of the reverb and it gives it that nice effect. What we can also do is, not only have we got the 303 side chained to the stereo effect, we can also side chain it to the reverb. So right and click on the arrow and side chain to this track, and as you can see it's side chained to stereo and side chained to reverb. So when we play the 303 now, because we took the reverb off here, we can control it via the reverb knob. Let's just hold on, I haven't turned the effect up on here. Let's turn it all the way up. Here you can see it's dry and wet, which gives it that fills out the reverb and it makes it quite bassy. So with everything back in, you can see what we're kind of aiming for, but it needs tweaking. Where the 303 is getting a bit loud with the reverb, so let's just turn that down a bit. And then next we're just going to look at putting in a 909 tom sound and side chaining or limiting. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is add a 909 tom to the mix, and we're going to have a little example of side chaining or limiting the tom and the rumble in the kick so that they don't conflict with each other. So let's get a nice low sounding tom. We'll drop that on our channel rack, and what I'll also do is just shorten the sample so it's not as long. So if we fade that out, there we go. And again, I'm just going to rename this. Yep, you've guessed it, Tom 909, and it's a drum. So I'm going to make it red, and we're going to stick this on spare channel 7, so it's sort of around with our drums, and we want to unroute it to our master. Make sure it's selected, and route the audio to the drum buzz. Again, nice to be organized, so let's call this Tom and make that red. Okay to that. Do we want a bit of reverb? Let's leave it for now. I can't remember what I did in the example, so let's leave that for now. But what we do want to do is side chain the tom with the rumble or the delay on the kick. Okay, so we've added our tom and we've routed it to the drum buzz so that when we turn the drums down, we also lose the toms. What we can do as well is side chain the toms or send receive the toms, or right hand click on the arrow to the delay, to the reverb. So we get if we listen to the toms, I'm renowned for doing this. Basically, we need to increase the amount of send and return. Increase the amount of send and return on the reverb. So we've got just that little bit of reverb on the toms, and we also want to side chain the toms to the delay or the rumble from the kick drum, so that we can turn down the rumble when the toms activate, because the toms and the rumble are sort of sharing the same low frequency space. We don't want the kick to be affected because we want the kick to cut through the mix. So if we then do a side chain from the toms to the delay, so if we select toms and we side chain to this track, you can see the toms got a bit of reverb on them, and they've also got a bit of delay. So let's leave this where this is, because we're now relying on the audio wave signal. Bear with me on that one. Let me just check. Okay, so on the delay now, we want to add a limiter, and then we want to put it into comp. And the side chain for this would be, you've guessed it, the toms. If we adjust the knee and the ratio, is it because I've got the threshold? There we go, it's the threshold. So if we get rid of the toms, we've not got the kick drum effect in. If we take this to 1, or if we take it to the kick is now affecting the delay, and that can completely defeats the object. So now we just have the toms, if I bring them back in, affecting that delay. So what we're trying to do is get the tom sound to push down the volume level of the delay that is an effect of the kick, so that that low end doesn't compete. Another quick and simpler way, to be honest, would just be to EQ the low end out of the toms, but we don't want to do that. We want to keep that punch of the toms, but not have it affecting the rumble and get the low end too muddy. So that is basically the way to do it. So just to recap, on the toms, we side chain to the delay. We does this actually affect it? Bear with me. No, so this, because this is a send and receive knob, doesn't appear to affect the amount of limitation that the tom is creating on the delay, because the this limiter is relying on the the wave signal rather than the amount of gain that's been sent to it, if that makes sense. Obviously you can adjust these settings to your heart's content. So that's basically side chaining and using a limiter for one sound to sort of limit another sound. So let's bring this all back in. And then let's go back to our control surface. Let's go back to a control surface and have a little play. And that's it. So this gives us a nice setup to continue working on this genre of music. Again, if I've made any mistakes, or if you feel there's a better way that this could be done, I'm open to suggestions, so please comment below and I'll include them in the next video. If you subscribe to my channel, I'll be uploading videos regularly, and thank you for watching.